Hello YouTube, Chrissy here from A Little Glam, A Lot of Mom, and in today's video I'm sharing our art curriculum picks for the 2019 through 2020 school year. So a few notes here before we get started. Today's resources won't include handiwork. All of our handiwork is done during our opening activities or morning circle time. So if you didn't see my picks for our opening activities, I'll link that video down below. Because art is one of the biggest components of our homeschool, our art supply collection is rather large. So there is also a dedicated video for our art supply closet, and that video will also be linked down below. What you'll see today is what I picked for a more formal art curriculum or lesson. I did sprinkle in a few laid-back resources for arts and crafts projects for my youngest two, and let's just go ahead and show you what we picked. Because a big portion of our schooling is outdoors in the sun, I picked up Nature's Art Box, from t-shirts to twig baskets, 65 cool projects for crafty kids to make with natural materials you can find anywhere, and I picked this up on Amazon. Part 1 is the introduction and a brief history on nature's art, on getting started and what items from nature you can use, rules for picking from nature, and suggestions for supplies that are not from nature. Throughout the book, there are instructions for actual art skills, which I love, like making your own paste and glue, making clay, making ink, natural dyes, and more. And then you'll begin to find projects categorized by materials from nature. And we've already made several pieces from this book, or several projects, and it's been so fun. Some projects of which only Bella, my first grader, has the skill and patience to complete, but other projects I have been able to modify and adapt for my preschooler and toddler, and even to use with older children such as my teenagers, especially my daughter who is a crafter. And I would also recommend this for families who aren't homeschoolers, just a wonderful resource to have at home to encourage you and your family to get outdoors and then to be in togetherness through art. Coloring with block crayons, I specifically picked this out for my first grader through my teenagers, but I do believe that there are some lessons in here that I'd be able to adapt for my preschooler. And to pair with it, we have the Stockmar block crayons, and we have the larger set, but you actually only need the 3 primary colors to work with this book. These have taken a little bit of a beating, but all it takes is a little bit of rubbing on paper to get them clean again and good to go. I also purchased a Strathmore drawing pad, which we're using for several of these formal art lessons, and I picked this up at Michael's. And the Coloring with Block Crayons book and the Stockmar crayons I picked up on achildsdream.com. Okay, so Coloring with Block Crayons. This curriculum or this book is very teacher intensive, meaning first the teacher needs to learn, not necessarily master, but you do need to learn to then give the child the lessons with the manual as a guide, of course. So I'm still in the midst of working this book first, and with all the back to school prep, I actually had to put it aside for a bit. In the introduction, it goes over basic supplies needed. holding techniques for the block crayons and gripping exercises, and even a word about praising your child's drawings. Then we get into the basic technique exercises for children. So mixing colors, coloring a rainbow, making browns, ribbons, and a brief summary on negative space. Drawing pictures with children, so landscapes, skies, land and water. Drawing plants with children and buildings. Drawing people with children, animals, indicating time and seasons and elements, and then also showing perspective in your art. Then there is a brief summary on block crayons in the early curriculum, and for Waldorf, that is kindergarten through third grade, and then also a brief summary on drawing the first letters and when the child starts expressing that interest. Fun projects with wax crayons, the appendix, index, and then we get into color illustrations. So this is basically examples of those techniques that you're going through of what those should look like, and they're stunning, beautiful examples. Creative form drawing with children ages 6 to 10 years old, workbook 1 by Angela Lord. I bought this on achildsdream.com, again, to use with my first grader. And just like coloring with block crayons, this is teacher labor intensive. So this is something that you're not handing over to a child, although it does say workbook. It's something that you will be working alongside with your child. So we did already dive into this, and we completed the first lesson, which is about introducing the two main forms and how every letter, every number, or picture comes from these two basic forms. I love that there is also a movement suggestions for kinesthetic learners, which is most young or early learners, right? Bella enjoyed this part of the lesson. She was to walk in a straight line and draw a straight line with her nose on the table as a way of understanding the movement or the form. Then we got into introducing patterns using these two forms, and we also explored that the curve can be turned in the other direction. And so the same with this art curriculum, we are using our Strathmore drawing pads, and I mentioned before that we're just using tabs to go ahead and divide the different sections or the different work for each book. And here is an example of Bella's first lesson. So next we're moving on to variation in sizes. Straight lines. Patterns can be drawn using only straight lines. Short growing longer lines, and drawing going in the opposite direction. Curves in a new way, different pattern and sizes. Putting curves inside the other. Curves can also go sideways and inside each other. Then we turn curves around, more curves and straight lines. Mirror drawing and flowing lines and how many different combinations can be made. Rhythmical flowing lines. Circles with more kinesthetic lessons. When many different spatial circles have been explored, the children can draw circles in their books, and further circles can be drawn with the addition of straight lines. Now getting into variations and the figure 8. We also have zigzag forms, diamond forms, diamond into stars, angles and triangles, angle games, triangles into 6 pointed stars, spirals, ovals. There is a lesson on giving and receiving, symmetry and mirroring above and below, right and left. And there's so much more, but I will stop here. If not, we will be here all day. So my thought for this is to use this as handwriting with Bella, just a more gentle approach, because last year she didn't enjoy her handwriting book From the Good and the Beautiful too much. So I thought we can set that aside, use this for a while, and then jump back into that handwriting book. This is also another resource that I know my teenagers will enjoy for sure. So I'm going to leave it out for them so that they can work through workbook 1. There is a workbook 2 geared for older children, so I'll follow up with that for them. The supplies needed for this workbook are really simple: a drawing pad and beeswax stick crayons, and we bought this on Amazon, and it's a pack of 24. They're really smooth and buttery, and I can't compare them to the Stockmar or Falana stick crayons, but they are a nice, inexpensive alternative. Beginning Recorder by Oak Meadow, a parent's guide for teaching the soprano recorder, and this is for my first grader, which in Waldorf is traditionally when music lessons are introduced. There is a brief introduction on reading music, also holding the recorder, playing the recorder, and a fingering chart. Then you go through the introduction of the notes one by one and music to practice those mastered notes. And it's pretty obvious that you will need to pair this with a soprano recorder. And this one has been passed down to Bella by her older brother, who also learned how to play the recorder, although I do believe he was in 2nd grade. The brand is Angel, and it's really nice quality. I do really like that it includes this lanyard or sort of strap holder that she can wrap around her neck. I do also have an inexpensive Yamaha brand soprano recorder sitting in my Amazon cart because it is suggested the teacher has his or her own recorder. And I also do have a digital copy of the book I can access on my laptop or phone. That brings me into our last resource for this music block, and that is a music book stand. So where we can just sit the physical copy of the book. And it's totally not necessary, but convenient to have and fairly inexpensive. Okay, so I'm sure you're tired of seeing these drawing pads, but I just do want to share a little hack. So I bought these at Michael's, and they often have BOGOs, buy one get one, because otherwise they're about $17 a piece, and I bought 4 for under $30. And again, we'll be using these with all of these art curriculums and just dividing them with tabs, and I did buy one for each of us. So this is the 300 series Strathmore drawing pad of 50 sheets, and it measures 11 by 14. I do want to cover the front and back covers of this spiral bound book and just make it a little bit more customized for each of the kids. So if you have any suggestions, let me know. So for about the 3rd and 4th term, or the second half of the school year, we will be taking online watercolor lessons through Waldorfish.com, and I will link them down below. So I am beginning to gather the supplies needed. They are fairly expensive, so I'm doing it a little bit at a time. And this is what I have so far: the Canson watercolor 30 sheet pad of 9 by 12 inches, and this is the 140 pound, which is recommended for wet on wet watercoloring. And of course, I will be sharing with you all of the other supplies as I continue to gather them, and you will see this entire art skill or curriculum come together in future videos. Creative Arts and Crafts Projects by the Good and the Beautiful for levels K through 3, and you did see me haul this in my previous haul video. In that video, I also mentioned that there have been some mixed reviews on this resource, and yes, you can find these projects, the instructions, the supply lists on the web. You can definitely browse Pinterest and most of these would pull up. But in my opinion, this type of resource is still valuable for us in our homeschool because it is all put together in one book and just makes it readily available for you to open up and have your supply list and instructions and project ideas ready to go. So it does save you a lot of time on browsing the web. In my opinion, the projects in here are really simple. And I did mention in that previous video that an avid crafter would likely already have most of the supplies needed for these projects on hand. Now, I do think that there is a need for this type of resource, maybe for a market of people who aren't so naturally crafted or beginning crafters that need that visual and step-by-step instruction. For us in our homeschool, this type of resource is needed to pull out on maybe those more relaxed arts and crafting type of days, and with easy enough skill levels that are perfect for my preschooler and toddler to be involved and engaged. While it's wonderful to challenge our children and teach them new art skills, it is also important to have a balance of art curriculum or art supplies, art projects that are attainable for younger children in a sense that they can feel like they have been able to complete or master an art piece. These two books are a thrift store find, and this is Arts and Crafts by the Mailbox. And this is geared for preschool through kindergarten, and they were 50 cents a piece, so I really couldn't pass them up. I only found January and March, but I do know here that there is a series of 12, so one for each month of the year. So the projects are very much geared towards the holiday and the season for each month. They're very simple crafts and projects, and there are even templates towards the back of the book, which I will probably be photocopying. So for me personally, these crafts are very nursery, very preschool through kindergarten, just very basic crayons, colors, gluing, pasting. Not it doesn't require much art skill, but exactly for that reason is why I picked it up, because although it isn't really our style, I know that my toddler is going to just think these are so cute, and they're going to be fun for her. And again, just very simple, something that she can definitely do. And I wasn't going to pass them up just for my selfish style and wants. So I have no clue where you can find these, if they can be purchased anymore. They look pretty dated, but I will link anything that I can in the description box below. So while I finish skimming through our last book here, I will close this video. So thank you so much for watching today. I do hope that you got some ideas from our art curriculum picks for the 2019-2020 school year. Art is huge in our household, not just our homeschool. So I'd love to hear what you have picked for art curriculum for this year. Don't forget to like this video, it helps us out a lot, and I'm wishing you a blessed week. Thanks so much for your love.